like Victor Martinez definitely could have been Mr. Olympia 3 or 4 times. And I don't think he wasted it himself. I think he just he had bad luck. You know, he should have won the Olympia in 07. He tore his patella tendon that next year and never got to compete in 08 when Dexter Jackson won the Olympia. And that kind of sucked, you know, for him. And, you know, then he came back again and he won the Arnold in Europe. And then on the way back, he got put in, you know, immigration jail because his green card expired. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros. Of course, we are straight into the contest season right now. 9 weeks, hard to believe, 9 weeks from the 2023 Olympia, and a lot happening between now and then. Of course, the Italy Pro taking place this weekend. A lot of hype going down between Regan Grimes and Nathan Diasha, as we now ease into the questions. First 2 questions on this show, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, when you trained, did you use the abductor machine, or did you not do any of these direct workout with these muscles?
Used to call that the gynecological exam machine back in the day. I don't know if they still do that, call it that anymore. You know, I would use it a little bit sometimes, not every workout. I would just go in there sometimes just to get a little bit of pump in the adductors, which are the inner thigh muscles, and then the abductors, abductors, are the outer ones. They kind of squeeze those glute medius muscles and the tensor fasciolata muscles. So I would use it a little. I would do like maybe 1 or 2 sets. You know, if the workout wasn't like brutally, you know, annihilating. You know, sometimes I would do these crazy leg work because I just wanted to go home after. But a lot of times at the end of the workout, I would do like 1 or 2 sets on the abductor and 1 or 2 sets on the adductor machine and just call it a day. Nowadays, because I don't squat really much anymore because I can't, because I have the fused ankle, I have the torn quad, you know, partially torn quad. I really do start out usually with the abductor and adductor machine. But, you know, you got to remember, I have really good muscle memory down there. Those muscles were huge at one point, so I can really use that machine and contract those muscles much more so than most people can. So, you know, I wouldn't be using it as a main moving, you know, type exercise. It's a nice finishing exercise on a squat, you know, leg press, hack squat type of a workout. So don't rely on that for size. You're not going to put on massive size with those, but it's a nice way to contract those muscles and get a good mind-muscle connection to those particular muscles, that when you do train them with your, you know, with the heavier movements and the compound movements like squats, you will feel them more.
Second question, again, these questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Is it okay to stay on 2 IUGH daily and taper off T3 while coming off a heavy female cycle? Will that ease the side effects? How about Clen? I think I've heard you say you like to come into off season still using some Clen to not gain too much body fat. Is that correct?
You know, I think people misunderstand some of the stuff I talked about with Clen in the past. When I was first starting out, and I would doing like basic cycles, you know, like Primavol and Winchell cycles, a lot of times after the cycle was over, I would do a little, when I was off for 8 weeks, I would do a little clenbuterol, like as an anti-catabolic, somewhat anabolic type of supplement, not to burn fat, but just as like kind of like a bridging thing, because it wasn't an anabolic steroid. It wasn't affecting androgen receptors. And I did it. And this is when I first started. But now, once I started competing, rather, after the show's over, I used clenbuterol for the show. So you got to taper off that stuff. So you're not going to use that in between cycles anymore. As far as a woman too, if you're just coming off a cycle from doing a show and you were on clenbuterol and T3, you should taper off that and get off of it completely. The good thing about women when they come off cycle is they don't lose muscle, because remember, you're not crashing from anything. So if, let's say you're taking, 20 milligrams of Winstrol a day and you're taking 30 milligrams of Anavar a day and you just stop that. Okay. Well, yeah, you don't have that in your system anymore after, a week or so, but you also haven't been suppressing anything that you naturally produce. So you're not going to crash and lose muscle. Plus, women don't lose muscle anyway. It's very hard for women to lose muscle. So that women coming off a cycle is not the same as men who go from this super high testosterone. Now they come off cycle, their body's not producing their own testosterone. They have nothing, basically. So it's a little harder. So that's why you got to do the HCG, the Clomid. You got to be a little more tricky about it. Can you stay on a little bit of growth hormone? Sure. I don't think growth hormone is a problem because it's not affecting androgen receptors. A lot of times I have my guys stay on 1 or 2 IUs a day of GH just kind of for recovery purposes. And that seems to work really well as long as you're not becoming insulin resistant from it. So when women come off cycle, just stop everything. Stop everything in terms of anabolics go. And once again, you can stay on some GH if you want. Clenbuterol and T3 should be tapered off. Usually I taper it off at 20 micrograms of Clen twice a day for a week, and then 20 micrograms a day, once a day, for a week, and then come off. So it's a 2-week taper off. Same thing with T3. I usually go right down to 25 micrograms per day for a week, and then I go to 12.5 micrograms per day for a week, and then off. And that's the 2-week taper on those 2 drugs. These questions are really good questions. I get them a lot, but it's worth repeating because we're always getting new people on here. Also, if you want to join the Dave Palumbo Experience app, it's $29 a month. You get access to everything I've ever written, all my videos that I do, all in one place, all my protocols, diets, off-season, pre-contest I have up there. I have cycles for beginners and advanced men and women. We put up a workout every single week. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum in the app. So if you're an app member, you have a question, submit it. We answer it right there. So you get to see everyone's questions, everyone's answers. And I do a Q&A video every week exclusively for the app. So it's like another Ask Dave just for the app members. And I know people, we have a lot of members now. I got to thank you guys out there for supporting that app. It makes me want to keep doing it and adding more and more to it because you guys have been signing up and you're loyal members and you continue every month. And that just shows me, it's not a lot of money, I know, but it adds up. And, it shows me that you guys really care about what I'm doing and all the information I'm putting out there. And it inspires me to keep going. So appreciate it.
So let's move now to the questions from our Instagram feed and from our Facebook feed. If you're not already following us on Facebook, simply look up RX Muscle. On Instagram, the handle is official_RX Muscle. If you're new here to the YouTube channel, we welcome you. We ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our show segments, updates, whatever we have coming up now. And of course, over the course of the next 9 weeks, heading into the 2023 Olympias. Go to Wild Manoyan. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation. Your favorite myostatin inhibitor, what would you combine with it in a cycle for max muscle gains?
Yeah. If there were only real myostatin inhibitors out there. They sell something called follistatin, and there's another one out there, I think, as well. And theoretically, in a test tube, they do inhibit myostatin, but the problem is that you need to inhibit myostatin all the time, 24 hours a day. Those myostatin inhibitors that you're going to inject or take by oral, by pill, they just don't do that. And there's nothing we know of right now that can inhibit myostatin to the point where it actually would enhance muscle growth. So don't waste your money on taking those out there. At some point, someone will create and maybe it's out there already, a gene vector using that CRISPR technology that will somehow, you'll inject into yourself if you're crazy enough, be carried by a virus. The virus will put the vector into your cells of your body. It'll snip out the myostatin gene, and you will have no myostatin left in your body on a 24-hour basis, and you'll probably increase a lot of muscle mass that way. Who knows what else might happen? So, I certainly would not want to be the guinea pig on that experiment, but I have a feeling that will be the future of muscle growth, probably.
Let's go to Bilal Hamide. I wanted to ask you about shooting your PEDs in your ventrogluteal muscle or dorsal gluteal area. I've been having constant pit pain in my rear end, even though I rotate.
If you're having pain, I would just give the glutes a rest, to be honest with you. I think a lot of guys, just don't, they're constantly putting it in the same place. And especially if you're using anything that has test propionated, it's going to leave you sore for sure. You never want to, if here's your glutes from behind, you never want to inject on the back part. I don't know if he's calling that the dorsal, because that's where the sciatic nerve comes out of. So you don't want to inject it. You always want to inject on the side of your glutes. And that's important. If that gets filled up, you might want to try the side delts. You might want to try the lats, right around here where they flare out. You can put it straight in on the side, from the side going this way. And that's a popular place. I don't know if I actually am the one who came up with that idea back in the 90s, but I know that we were running out of places and everyone was sore all the time. So I said, I wonder if we could put them in the lats. The lats feel kind of soft. It's a very spongy muscle. It seems to hold a lot of oil, and it does. And that seems to be a good place, especially like the last couple of weeks before a show, so you don't have, big lumps on your glutes or your delts, which a lot of guys get. Some guys get lumps in their delts, and people think that's like permanent scar tissue. And a lot of times it's just swelling from the shots they're taking, because they just don't have any place to put the shots anymore. So try the lats. That seems to be my favorite. That was always my favorite place. We can't hear you, Sid.
Why do I always forget to do that? How about this? The 2023 Orlando Pro champion, Phil Clayhar, chiming in with a question. Long-acting versus short-acting. Now, he says for some perp, so I don't know if you meant prep.
For the purposes of prep, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So, I like to use, at least in the off-season, long-acting esters. I think it gives you, and you know what? Really, the way it came about for me was the fact that I found that the long-acting esters made me break out less, because I had acne issues when I was taking gear. I was very prone to breaking out. I didn't realize it was a DHT problem. If I had, I could have solved that problem way early in my career by taking DHT blockers. I didn't know that then. Now I obviously communicate that to people, tell them take Testalize, and it cuts back the acne quite a bit. But I found that the long-acting esters, probably because they don't convert at such a high rate to DHT, like test propionate's quick, test suspension quick. These quick esters, will convert to DHT and estrogen very fast. People think that the fast-acting esters actually don't convert as much, but they do. They convert quickly. That's the problem, and they may not last as long, but they still convert quickly. And so, when you get those rapid fluctuations in hormone levels, that's what makes you usually, have acne issues or even mood swings, I noticed too. So I like the long-acting ones. And also the long-acting ones, if you do some research, you'll find that they have less toxicity, because the liver can break them down over a much longer period of time, as opposed to fast-acting esters that need to be broken down on a daily basis almost. So less toxicity, better stable hormone levels. And when you have stable hormone levels, you grow better. Now, pre-contest, I still like to take long-acting testosterone esters to keep my levels even. But some of the drugs that we call hardening drugs, they're really not hardening drugs. They just make a lean physique look harder, tend to be the shorter-acting esters like Tren Acetate or Winstrol or Maasteron. So, those drugs, are used usually, or reserved, I should say, for pre-contest. It doesn't mean that they're going to cause less. People think it's because it's caused less water retention, or because it's really not that much. That's not really the case. It's just those drugs seem to not convert to estrogen as much. So in a lean physique, they're going to make you look harder. And I think just by convention, we've done this. And I've said this before, and I'll continue to stand by my statement. You could probably use testosterone and growth hormone and get in shape for a show and look just as good as if you took 4 or 5 other compounds with that. And it's just a testament to the fact that testosterone is what our bodies need, and higher amounts, in that 750 to 1,000 milligram range, tend to make the body look about as good as it needs to look. If you're super lean and you take the water off your body, with a diuretic, you really don't need much else. But when you do start stacking other drugs, you get an enhanced effect from the drug. So as long as they're accessible to you and you can use them, then you should stack some drugs. But the question is, some people think you have to only go down the last 6 weeks to only, or 4 weeks to only fast acting esters. You can't use anything long acting, and that's stupid. Well, because when you're only using short acting esters, unless you're taking them around the clock, you're going to have ups and downs. So you're going to have points in the day where you're really low and points in the day where you're really high. And you never want that. That's why if you keep a long-acting testosterone in there, you'll have a nice baseline underneath the other drugs that are peaking and valleying and peaking and valleying all day long. So I hope that answered your question. And if you look once again back at the research and you look at how these compounds are degraded by the body, the long-acting compounds have almost zero toxicity on the body. And that's really, over the long period, the long haul, you might be doing these things for 10, 20 years. Some people take steroids. That's going to be less stressful to your liver, to your kidneys, and to all the organs that have to break these drugs down.
Let's go to Lucian Galecki. And before I ask the question, so the interview we did with Cali Muscle, which was done live on Friday, is live right now on the channel. If you haven't already done so, go check it out. It's very informative. A lot of things come out. A lot of things Cali Muscle really opened up about, and it was absolutely downright hilarious. So again, right now on the channel. So the question is about Cali Muscle. Cali Muscle says that fruits have amino acids, and you don't need to eat protein if you get your amino acids through fruit, because your body will make its own protein from the amino acids. Explain the process and if it's really that effective, if it even is.
I knew I was going to get this question eventually. When I interview people, unless I don't like them, okay, if I don't like them, then I'll go full force at them, But if I like them and I like Cali Muscle, I try to make the person I'm interviewing the star of the interview. And if they want to give their own opinions, that's fine. I might break balls a little bit, but I try not to get into debates about nutrition, unless it's like a guru, segment or something like that, guru talk segment. But this was just an interview, and he brought up the whole watermelon, that it's saving his life, and that he's no longer eating protein at all. He only eats fruit. Look, fruit is basically sugar, water, and fiber. That's what's in fruit. I don't even know if there's any amino acids in fruit. I would tend to say there's very probably zero protein in fruit. Okay, and we know that your body cannot turn sugar, glucose, into amino acids. It can do the opposite. It can turn sugar. It could turn amino acids into sugar, but it can't turn sugar into amino acids. So, Cali's theory that he's getting enough protein from the fruit he's eating is probably not accurate. And there's really no science there. I think, what happened with him is he had an exorbitant amount of muscle. He had a blockage in his coronary arteries. He had a heart attack. He got scared. He needed to lose weight, which reduced his blood pressure, which reduced the strain on his heart. And that's what he did. And he did it a little bit in an extreme manner by, cutting out, all protein. He basically went on a fast is really what he did. And, he looks good still because he had so much muscle that even if he lost 25, 30 pounds of muscle, he still had a lot of muscle on his body. And I think he looks good now. And that's why I said on the show, I said, mark my words, he will go back to eating protein at some point, because at some point he's going to start feeling, too small. And he lost too much muscle, and he's going to want to feel stronger again and feel better. And he'll probably start eating some protein. Doesn't mean he's going to eat red meat, and he doesn't need to eat red meat. He can eat some fish or some eggs and some whey protein. But I think at some point he will go back to eating protein. And I don't, once again, a lot of the stuff he does is super sensationalistic because he likes to, that's what he does. He's a social media guy, right? But when you get scared and you get something happen to you, you tend to go in the opposite direction of what you were doing. But he's going to move back to the middle, I guarantee you. And that's why I was trying to explain to him. It's about middle ground, finding that middle ground between this extreme and this extreme. The truth is always here.
Let's go to Damien Deline. Mentions Clen, T3, Cardarine, other weight loss aids. Please list, I guess, which ones you would use if possible. Good to use when you have a big amount of fat to lose, like 70 to 80 plus pounds, trying to get from 280 down to about 2 to 210. Or should you diet down the first, like, say, 50 pounds and then try a fat loss agent? I'm currently on 50 mg TRT per week, recovering from shoulder and bicep surgery. Thank you for all the info.
Yeah, I think you got it right. When you first start dieting, when you have a lot of body fat to lose, you don't need to take anything. You just need to start eating right. Now, whether you choose to do more of a ketogenic diet or just a low carb diet, obviously you got to lower carbs if you want to lose weight. That's up to you. But just eating right, doing some cardio, going to the gym and weight training a little bit, you're going to lose a lot of weight pretty fast just doing that, especially if you were doing nothing and you weren't eating right. Now, once you hit kind of like a little bit of a plateau, maybe after 4 to 6 weeks, then you can sit down and say, you know what can I do to like speed this process up? You might want to add a natural fat burner like our lipolyzed product from Species Nutrition, which has no stimulants in it. So I don't like to put people who are severely overweight on anything with a lot of stims in it, because sometimes it's just too much for them and it can cause high blood pressure and stuff like that. So you might want to start with something like lipolyzed, which works really well. It helps suppress appetite a little bit. And then, when you start hitting a plateau on that, which could be 2-3 weeks, I don't know, it depends on the person. Then you could say, all right, let me try some clenbuterol. I think clenbuterol and T3 combination together are really probably the most potent fat burning, tandem that you can put together with the least side effects, and there's no, obviously, there's no steroids, there's no steroidal compounds in clenbuterol T3. So you're not going to get any masculinizing side effects if you're a woman, and it's not going to suppress your natural testosterone if you're a man. So that's really probably the safest way to go. So once again, you kind of go from diet, cardio first, continue that, maybe add a natural fat burner like lipolyzed. After that, move on to maybe clenbuterol. And then at some point after that, if you're stuck with the clenbuterol, move on to like a T3 supplement. Obviously, continuing to work out, do your cardio, keep your diet tight, and you do it in stages, incrementally. So you constantly have something that you can add in. If you do everything at one time, eventually you kind of get stagnant on all that stuff, and then you just don't lose anymore. And there's nothing more to do because you've done everything already. So there's no reason to, like, if you have, like I always use this analogy, if you have to blow up like the little ant mound you have in your driveway, you don't use an atomic bomb to blow this thing up. You could probably use your hose, would be the easiest way. But if you wanted to put a firecracker there, I guess that probably would be, the least, collateral damage. But the more you go in there with the heavy artillery, the more side effects you're going to have. And eventually you can't do anything else because you've used all your ammunition already. So slow but sure, make changes incrementally as long as you're losing weight, because you can only lose weight so fast, right? You can only lose so much fat per week. I think if you could lose, the first 2 weeks, you'll lose a lot of weight because of water weight. But after that, if you can lose 2 to 3 pounds of body fat per week, that's a really good rate. If you can continuously do that, think about that. You do that for, 20 weeks, that's 60 pounds almost, so you can lose a lot of weight, but it's going to be done slowly and methodically.
Let's go to Rich Ramirez. Says he watches the show every day, hooked on Species Nutrition products. So we appreciate the support and your business. What dosages do you recommend for a Tren Ace test Cypionate and Maasteron Enanthate cycle? Once again, thank you for all the superior advice and for the Species Nutrition products.
What was he, a beginner? I didn't catch that.
No. He's asking for your recommended dosages.
Right, but did he say he was a beginner, or has he been doing this for a while? I didn't catch that.
He did not specify if he's a beginner or advanced.
Yeah. It's hard, when I'm giving advice, when I don't know really the level at which the person's training. But let's assume you've been doing this a while, you've done a few cycles. I like usually, like, for the guys who are not necessarily competing at the highest level, maybe 250 milligrams of testosterone, 3 to 4 times a week. Combine that with some, Tren acetate, maybe 50 milligrams 3 times a week, and maybe some Maasteron 100 milligrams 3 times a week. I mean, that's a nice cycle right there. You know, with a little anti-estrogen like Arimidex, maybe 0.5 milligram every other day. You could always add growth hormone to that if you want, you know, 2 to 4 IUs per day. And that's very reasonable. It's a good, effective dosage. You're going to make really good improvements with that dosage, but you shouldn't be getting excessive side effects on that. Once you start boosting up the trenbolone, you're going to get problems with sleeping. You're going to have indigestion. You know, you're going to have other issues. If you bump the testosterone too high, you're going to be excessively sweating. You know, you might hold a lot of water. So if you follow the dosage I'm giving you, you should get really good results with the minimal side effects.
Let's go to, I'm going to save this one towards the end. Let's go to Arnold Teach. 2-part question. If you're on cycle and you hurt your back squatting and now your legs are weak and can't squat one plate without pain, would you continue the cycle to benefit the upper body and treat the back and legs, or would you stop cycle or TRT?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I'll tell you why, because I get this question a lot. People think like if they can't train every single day, 7 days a week, when they're on a cycle, that they're wasting it. Steroids enhance recovery. Okay, they increase protein synthesis. So the key for you to do is get to the gym, stimulate that muscle by breaking it down in the gym, by lifting heavy weights, full range of motion, okay, compound movements, which breaks down the maximum amount of muscle in that muscle group that you've been training, and then let your body heal. Days off are when your body is building itself at the most accelerated rate because it's getting a break. That's why I tell people don't train 2-3 times a week the same body part, because you're just constantly over breaking down. Likewise, if you get hurt, think about what getting hurt means. It means that you've not only did you damage the muscle like you normally do in the gym, you know, by weight training, but you've excessively damaged it to the point where you're actually debilitated. So if you stop the steroids, your healing, you know, potential is going to go way down. So you don't want to stop just because you're hurt and maybe you can't train the way you want to for 2 weeks. You're still building muscle. You're still recovering from these workouts you did earlier in the week, and your body needs that stuff. So that's a very big mistake people make, is coming off when they get injured. Unless you need unless you tore a quad or a bicep and you need a surgery, that's a different story. You know, then you might want to go down to HRT levels. But if you just got a temporary little setback in the gym and you know you're going to be back in 3 to 5 days or less, you definitely don't want to stop.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but his question is regarding your Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru seminar. Do you have any dates in mind? When can fans expect that he's quite interested, in his own words, to learn from your philosophies?
Yeah, you know, I haven't done one in a while, Sid. I have to. I got to get back in and set one
you
up.
You did one before your procedure, like short while
yes,
before your procedure.
And then I've been lazy after my heart surgery. I haven't done one, which I usually go every 4 months. So this is a little bit longer than normal, which is good. That's why a lot of people have been asking me about it. So there's 2 things you can do. Number one, you can go to the Palumbo University's page, which is a link off my DavePalumbo.com website. And you can actually watch one of the old courses you can sign up for. And you'll get, the only thing you won't get is me live. You'll get the recorded version of me. And then I will send you manually the Diet Guru course book, which is a 100-page manual with all my stuff in there. However, if you want to do a live, seminar, I think the next one I'm going to do is probably in October, which is next month. I haven't set a date yet, but that's probably the most likely that I'll do it right then. And then I have a couple of mini courses I want to do. Like I want to do one specifically geared at reading food labels properly. That will probably be a 2-hour class. I have another 4-hour class in mind I want to do, which is going to be just on anabolic steroids alone and insulin and all the peptide hormones. And that would be a 4-hour class. And then, of course, the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course is actually an 8-hour class. It's actually 9 hours in total, but we get an hour for lunch. So it's an 8-hour class. So there's different, I think if I held different versions, we would get more people to, watch some of the versions that maybe that's what they really want to focus on. Hey, I want to know how to pick the right foods and nutritional supplements out. I don't know how to read a label. I want to know what the right way to read a label is. What are the important aspects of that? Once again, that'll be a short course. And then a lot of people are really, really into the anabolics. They really want to know about steroids and how to make cycles and put things together and side effects and all that stuff. And so that'll be probably another course. So I got a lot planned. Unfortunately, I need to clone myself to be able to get everything done. So hopefully in the next couple months, all that will be out.
I thought you were going to finish that sentence with something to the effect of like, hopefully in a couple of months, I'll be able to clone myself.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's good.
Take one more question. Good friend of the show, Dedgwick. Interesting one here. So you may want to take a second to think between this era, your era, 90s, so on and so forth. Biggest wasted potential in bodybuilding?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's hard, Sid, because you know what? There's been so many different. Sometimes people have wasted their potential, but not because it was their fault. For just bad shit happened to them. Like I think that like Victor Martinez definitely could have been Mr. Olympia 3 or 4 times, and I don't think he wasted it himself. I think he just he had bad luck. He should have won the Olympia in 07. He tore his patella tendon that next year and never got to compete in 08 when Dexter Jackson won the Olympia. And that kind of sucked, for him. And, then he came back again and he won the Arnold in Europe. And then on the way back, he got put in, immigration jail because his green card expired, coming back into the country. So, I mean, and then he lost another whole year. So, I mean, he didn't waste his potential. He was just he just didn't have good things happen to him. And so, and his sister died at one point too. And that really was very depressing for him. So I think that he could have gone very, very far. I think Chris Cormier could have been Mr. Olympia. He certainly could have had 3 or 4 Arnold Classic titles for certain, had he lived a more monk-like lifestyle. Chris liked to go out and have a good time. And, and even though when he went to the gym, he was all business and he never missed meals. I think that his lifestyle caught up to him eventually. And I think he never really realized his potential. He could have been, one of the probably best Mr. Olympias, and he competed in a very competitive era. So I don't think we ever saw the best of Chris. We saw a really good Chris, but we never saw the best of Chris. And I think Flex Wheeler could have been better. I think that Flex coasted on his natural talent. Yes, he trained hard in the gym. Did he diet hard? No, by his own admission, he cheated a lot on his diet. And, I don't think if I asked Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman if they cheated on their diet, they would say, I don't think they ever cheated on their diet. So I think Flex could have been certainly Mr. Olympia. He could have beat Ronnie in 98. And then if he would have, he probably would have won multiple Olympias after that. Obviously we don't know how long he would have lasted because of this. He had a autoimmune kidney issue going on during this whole time. But, was he a waste? No, because he won a lot of titles and he was a really great bodybuilder, but I think he could have been better. So like I said, it's hard because sometimes, some of the people just didn't really cause their own problems. Some people did, like Chris and maybe Flex. I think also there are probably people out there that had unbelievable talent that we don't even know what their names are because they never really made it to the level that I know people that, offhand that no one would even know the person's name I even mentioned. They could have been excellent pros, but because one thing or another, and they just, life happened and they just weren't able to give it 100%. So I guess I would have to go with, like I said, those 3 guys that I mentioned, because those guys kind of come to mind.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or upcoming anything and everything that we have on this channel. Right now on the channel, all new episodes of the After Hours podcast. We had Sarah Piana. So she told about some never before told stories, obviously, about Rich Piana. Show also included John Bravo. So welcome back, John Bravo. Larry Pollock going off with some never before told stories. I mean, it was really one of those bonanza episodes. It had everything. So all new episode of After Hours, of course, all new episode of Heavy Muscle Radio with Dave Palumbo and Chris Zito. And then, of course, tomorrow, all new episode of Iron Rage with Lee Priest. And I think we're also going to be joined by, I don't know his real name, but everybody knows him as Colossus Kennedy. Obviously Dave and Chris talked about him, new IFBB pro and someone just, oozing with talent, could be an absolute star at the next level. So we're expecting it to be joined by him tomorrow as well. So that should be fun. You're going to hear from someone who has tons and tons of potential to be a real star, real force in the IFBB Pro League for years to come. Again, if you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below, and as always, we appreciate all of your support. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.